Welcome to the Genealogy Gems Podcast, providing quick and innovative ways to make the absolute most out of your research time and creative ideas for sharing and displaying your family history. I'm your host, Lisa Louise Cook. Hello and welcome to Genealogy Gems Podcast episode number 95. Well, I'm coming up for air after about 2 weeks of being immersed in the coolest cutting-edge stuff going on in genealogy these days. I can't wait to bring it to you. And just what is the coolest cutting-edge stuff that you're working on, Lisa, you ask? Well, it's the Google Earth for Genealogy Volume 2 DVD. Hopefully by now you have your copy of Volume 1, which is available, of course, at googleforgenealogy.com. Or if you have a premium membership, the Volume 1 videos are online as part of your premium membership. Now, I can't spill the beans too much yet on what I've been cooking up, but I can tell you, you're going to have a blast with this DVD. I mean, I'm having a blast just putting it together for you. Google Earth is so cool, and there are all these hidden treasures of things that you can do with it for your family history, which are, dare I say it, out of this world. I can't say too much now because it's a work in progress and I keep finding gems that I want to add to it. But stay tuned because I'll be telling you more in the Genealogy Gems newsletter and in upcoming episodes as it gets closer to completion. And if everything goes to plan, you're going to be able to get your hands on it by October 1st of 2010. Just in time for Family History Month, and just in time for me hitting the road because I'm going to have a full slate of live presentations that I'm doing during Family History Month this year. And I really want to bring the DVD with me because I'm going to be debuting some of these new gems in classes. If you'd like to attend one of my upcoming live classes, make sure you've signed up for the Genealogy Gems newsletter, which you can do at genealogygems.com because that's where we announce all the dates and information for attending. Okay, well, let's get right to the news because there's lots of it, and I have a lot of great email here from you as well. First up, I am so excited about this first bit of news. As you may have heard, Research in Motion, which is also known as RIM, has launched Blackberry Podcasts this month. It's a new service for Blackberry owners that is a podcast directory. Now, RIM chose 3 of the top podcast hosting services, one of which is Libsyn, where we publish this show, and told them that they could submit their top 300 podcasts for inclusion in the new directory. Well, believe me, there are thousands of podcasts out there, and Libsyn has chosen the Genealogy Gems podcast as one of their initial 300 shows that they've provided to RIM to help populate the new directory. I am very proud of my baby, but I want to thank you. You know, it's because you download and listen to the show. It's because you give it 5-star ratings in iTunes. And it's because you do your shopping through the Amazon links and the other links here on the website, which helps me keep this free show up and running. That's why Genealogy Gems continues to thrive, and it's now, thank goodness, reaching more people through the Blackberry Podcast Directory and helping them find those genealogy gems that help them build their family tree. You are amazing. So thank you very, very much. I also published a blog post the day that the podcast directory was first announced by RIM and got this great comment from Rick Rissmiller. He wrote, "Great news about the Blackberry app. Right now, I download it from iTunes each week and save it on my laptop and then connect the Blackberry and transfer so I can listen to do things around the house. I'm a new listener and I've downloaded all of your previous podcasts, and each week as I sit on my tractor mowing and trimming 3 acres, I listen to 3+ hours of great information and entertainment from you. Thanks for all the great work." I love it. You guys listen on your tractors while you're commuting to work. You're sitting in the dentist's waiting room. You're swimming laps and power walking. And I get to go with you. It's great. In fact, I want to thank a few other listeners out there who've recently written about how they listen to the show on their genealogy blogs. Susan Peterson recently wrote on her long-lost Relatives&nbsp blog about how she listens to the show. She wrote, I had a lot of dead time while waiting for an appointment. Rather than sitting around looking at the magazines in which I had no interest, I pulled out the MP3 player and listened to some more of the podcast. Yes, just filling in those empty spaces of my day with genealogy podcasts is definitely a good plan. That little MP3 player will be with me all the time now. For the next several weeks, Lisa will be my walking companion. And Tonia Kendrick wrote about the podcast at her Tonia's Roots at toniasroots.net. She wrote, Lisa Louise Cook is the queen of genealogy podcasting. Oh, wow. That's awesome. Do I get a crown? I want a crown. She writes, on the Genealogy Gems podcast, she often interviews a wide variety of people and introduces resources to help in one's research. There's a free version of the podcast and a premium paid version. While I currently only subscribe to the free version, I've downloaded a few episodes of the premium version from lulu.com to give it a test drive. Yeah, check out some of those premium episodes over on Lulu. And friend of the show, AC Ivory, reviewed the Genealogy Gems iTunes app at his Find My Ancestors blog at findmyancestor.blogspot.com. He says, having this app is so useful to me because there are so many times when I'm at work and I get bored with music and I want to listen to one of the new episodes of the podcast, but I simply can't download and sync it while I'm at work. So being able to go into the Genealogy Gems app and play the episodes makes it very convenient and easy. This app and podcast is so great. Lisa has really helped get the word out there on how to find records, what sites are available, and given us the opportunity to learn more about genealogists out there with all the interviews that she conducts. AC, thank you so much. I really appreciate you reviewing the Genealogy Gems iTunes app, which you can download, of course, from the iTunes store. And, it is a big advantage because you don't have to plug into iTunes and download everything and store them all on your iPhone or your iTouch. You can access them through the Wi-Fi and then just stream them so you're not taking up that storage space. So, hey, again, thank you, Susan, Tonia, and AC, thank you for the shout outs on your blogs and for helping your readers tap into the podcast. Okay, well, let's see what else is going on. I have been getting notices about some neat genealogy events coming up in the coming months. I got a press release recently about the new Roots Tech Conference, which was recently announced. It says here, technologists and genealogists from around the world will gather at the first annual Roots Tech Conference in Salt Lake City, Utah. It's February 10th through the 12th of 2011. The new conference, hosted by Family Search and sponsored by leading genealogical organizations, aims to bring technologists and genealogists together to help deepen understanding of current technologies and discover new ideas in applying technology to genealogy. You can learn more at rootstech.familysearch.org. The Roots Tech Conference is designed to foster innovation by bringing technology users and creators together in a meaningful way. Thousands of genealogists who use technology in pursuit of one of the most popular hobbies in the world will discover how new and emerging technologies can improve and simplify their activities. Genealogists will be treated to technology prototype demonstrations, interactive workshops, and opportunities to test innovative new product and service concepts. Technology providers will get the opportunity to demonstrate product concepts face-to-face to their customer, the family history enthusiast, and better understand their needs. Anticipated themes for the conference include using social networking to collaborate as families and societies, data backup and digital preservation, using multimedia, records and media digitization, how to use cloud computing to deploy reliable, scalable systems, handwriting recognition and automated transcription, mobile computing devices and applications, GPS mapping, and much more. Wow, if you're like me and you like the techie side of genealogy, then this sounds like our cup of tea, huh? I've written all about it in my column that I do for the Visit Salt Lake City tourism website, and I will have a link to that article in the show notes. To get to the show notes for this episode, go to genealogygems.com, click podcast from the menu and navigate your way to episode 95. And my friend and genealogy blogger Joan Miller dropped me a line to tell us about the new upcoming Family Roots Seminar being held by the Alberta Family History Society up in Canada. It's called New Horizons in Genealogy. It's going to feature Dick Eastman on the organized genealogist and conservation, keeping up with technology, Lynn Meehan on Records Interrogation 101, squeezing records until they talk. Ooh, that sounds good. And Thomas McKenty on social networking for genealogists and become a genealogy blogger. This is going to be held during Family History Month, Saturday, October 16th of 2010. Starts up at 8:30 in the morning and goes till 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Doors are going to open at 8 o'clock in the morning. It's at the Deerfoot Inn Hotel in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. And they're also going to have a dinner at the Big Rock Grill there in Calgary. Dick Eastman's going to be speaking on putting the genes in genealogy, and you'll need to sign up for that dinner separately. So for more information, log on to Family Roots at afhs.ab.ca/familyroots. And the New England Historic Genealogical Society and Ancestry.com are going to hold their second Family History Day on Saturday, October 16th, 2010, at the Seaport Hotel and World Trade Center in Boston. You can attend lectures, meet with expert staff, digitize your important family documents, lots of great activities. To register or learn more about that event, go over to familyhistoryday.com. Or you can email your questions to info@familyhistoryday.com. And as I mentioned at the top of the show, I'll be hitting the road in October as well for Family History Month. October 8th and 9th, I'll be at the Family History Expo in Pleasanton, California, which is about 45 minutes, an hour east of San Francisco. And in addition to teaching classes and having our Genealogy Gems booth there in the exhibit hall, I'm going to be doing a live episode of the podcast. Love doing those. We're going to do that on Friday. So to get more information on that, go to fhexpos.com and just click the banner there for the California Family History Expo. Then on Saturday, October 23rd, the good folks down at the Hemet San Jacinto Genealogical Society, they've invited me back once again. I'm excited to go. I'm going to be teaching Solving Family History Mysteries with Google Earth. And yes, I'm going to have the brand new Google Earth for Genealogy Volume 2 DVD with me. And I'm going to be teaching also, what you must know to save your research from destruction. This class is really key to making sure that your hard-won research lasts much longer than you do. We're going to teach you how to put together a genealogical materials directive, designating, what's going to happen to your research, and also the legalities and the paperwork involved in donating materials to archives and libraries. To learn more about that seminar, just go to hsjgs.org/October Seminar 2010.pdf. They have a PDF flyer there for you. And if you want to spend the entire day together talking about genealogy, then you'll definitely want to attend the California Genealogical Society Seminar on Saturday, October 30th of 2010. This is going to be a Google Day. I'm very excited about it. I'll be teaching Google Earth for genealogy, Google, a Goldmine of Genealogy Gems, Part 1 and Part 2, and the fourth class is Google Search Strategies. As soon as the webpage is up for that event, I will include it in the Genealogy Gems e-newsletter so that you can find out more about that. And also in the news, as you know, the TV show Who Do You Think You Are has been renewed for a second season. Yay! Which looks like it will probably air after the first of the year. But right now, you can check out repeat episodes on Friday nights on NBC. Check out Paula Stewart Warren's blog post. It's all about it. It's at her Paula's Genealogical Eclectica blog. It's a great post. It's titled, Who Do You Think You Are? Repeats. And I will have a link for you in the show notes taking you directly over there. You can check it all out. And finally, the newest episode of the Family Tree Magazine podcast is now available. It's the August 2010 episode. It features a fun interview I did with professional genealogist Sharon DiBartolo-Carmack. It's all about her article that appears in the September 2010 issue of the magazine, which I think is out now. Yeah, it's out now. It's called Finding Mr. Right. She's going to answer the question, what does the TV show The Bachelorette have to do with genealogy? I mean, can you imagine that there's a link? Well, you're just going to have to tune in to that August 2010 episode of Family Tree Magazine podcast to find out. You can subscribe to it for free, of course, in iTunes, or just head on over to familytreemagazine.com/podcast. Well, that's it for the news. So now it's time to hear from you, and we will do that at the mailbox. Well, here in the mailbox, I received an interesting question about online family trees at Ancestry.com from listener Jean Stapleton, who writes, "My great-great-great-grandfather had many children with 2 wives. I recently found out that wife number 1 died sooner than I thought, and that about 5 of the middle children belong to wife number 2. Is there an easy way to move them over to wife number 2? All I know to do is to detach them from wife number 1, but that puts the child in a 3rd category as the child of a 3rd unknown wife. I tried adding the child to the wife number 2, but that doesn't take the attached documentation with it. There must be an easier way, as this is such an easy mistake to make. I'm enjoying listening to your podcasts. I first discovered you at the Jamboree this summer. Jean." Well, Jean, my guess is that you are not the only person who's run across this situation. So I thought I would look into it for you, so I contacted the folks at Ancestry, and Jennifer Hodnett, product manager for Ancestry.com, was kind enough to provide an answer. Jennifer explains it this way. In your personal member tree, you may find later that a spouse you previously entered really was married to a different person, or that a child really belonged to a different set of parents. You can now easily fix relationship mistakes in your tree by detaching and reattaching individuals in your tree. First, bring up the profile page for the child that you want to detach from the mother, and follow these steps. Number 1. On that profile page, click on the brown Edit This Person button, located just below the name of the person at the top of the page. Number 2, on the next screen, there'll be 5 tabs at the top. Click on the Relationships tab, which will be the second one from the right. This will display the individual's current relationships. Number 3, now to dissolve or break this relationship, find the name of the individual that you want to detach from this person and click the Remove link to the far right of their name. In the case described by your listener, you'll want to look for the incorrect mother and click the Remove link next to her name. Number 4, a pop-up window will appear that will ask you if you are sure that you want to remove this relationship. Assuming you've selected the correct person, click the OK button to finish detaching this person from the selected mother. Be reassured that doing this will not remove the person from your tree. It only detaches them. You can find this person from the list of all people in your tree. Number 5, after selecting OK, you'll return to the Relationships tab for the detached child. You now want to return to the child's profile page, and you can do this by clicking the Return To and the name of the person button at the top left corner of the page. Number 6, once you're back on the profile page, click on the Add Mother link under the name of the father in the Family Members module on that page. Number 7, a box will appear that will allow you to add the mother. In the Add the Mother box at the top of the page, look for the link to Select Someone Already in Your Tree and click it. Number 8, you will then be directed to a list of all people in your tree. Just find the name of the correct mother and click the orange Select button next to her name. And number 9, you'll end up back on the child's profile page and will be able to see under the Family Members module that the correct mother is now assigned to that child. You can now repeat the process for each child that needs to be changed. Well, my thanks to Heather Erickson over at Ancestry for connecting me up with Jennifer. And Jean, I hope this helps you out. Thanks so much for a great question. And I'm going to put a short video of this together for you that includes these steps along with graphics to demonstrate the answer. I'll have that for you at the Genealogy Gems YouTube channel at youtube.com/genealogygems. And for those of you who have the Genealogy Gems podcast app, you'll find that video in the bonus section for this episode. Next up, I have an email from Alvy Davidson, a certified genealogist from Lakeland, Florida. He says, I've been gone on a 3-week vacation, just got back and headed to the gym this morning. While in the gym, I got a chance to listen to episode number 93, in which you interviewed blogger Craig Manson. I find it interesting that the subject of records access and closure was part of your interview. Craig mentioned that the Association of Professional Genealogists have been active and working in the arena of public records access. I'm a board member of APG, and also I'm involved in a joint effort by APG and the Federation of Genealogical Societies, which is FGS, called Records Preservation Access Committee. The chairman of this committee is Mr. David Rencher, Chief Genealogical Officer of the Family History Library. The website for information concerning RPAC is www.fgs.org/RPAC/index.php. We hold monthly conference calls with David chairing these meetings. Also, we hold 2 face-to-face meetings each year at the major genealogical conferences. The most recent meeting was held at the FGS conference in Knoxville, Tennessee. We try to be proactive in watching for record closures and records destruction. Thanks, Alvy Davidson. Well, thanks so much, Alvy. It is good to hear that the APG is taking such an active role in public records access issues. And by the way, Alvy was recently awarded the Graham T. Smallwood Jr. Award of Merit by the APG at the FGS conference in Knoxville, Tennessee. So congratulations, Alvy. And Will Haskell wrote in recently to follow up to Will Clifton's email, which I read on episode number 94 of the podcast. Will Haskell writes, Hi, Lisa. Your podcast continues to be informative and fun to listen to. Keep up the great work. Regarding Will Clifton's question on where to access the non-population schedules, some of them are available on Ancestry.com. I found a number of my main ancestors in these records. Will provides a link that goes directly to the collection called Selected U.S. Federal Census Non-Population Schedules 1850 to 1880. So I'll have that for you in the show notes. And you can also get there by going to Ancestry, clicking Search, and select Census. And then in the alphabetized list of census records, just scroll down to the S section and you'll find Selected U.S. Federal Census Non-Population Schedules 1850 to 1880. You know, when I went in there to try to find it the first time after I got Will's email, I missed it because I was looking for non-population schedule under the N's. So be aware that it is alphabetized, and if you're looking through that alphabetized list, you need to go down to the S's because it starts with the word selected. Will points out that there are only selected states, as the name implies, but it is a start. It contains U.S. federal non-population schedules from 1850 to 1880 for California, Illinois, Iowa, Kansas, Maine, Massachusetts, Michigan, Nebraska, New York, North Carolina and South Carolina, Texas, Virginia, and Washington Territory. According to Ancestry, the non-population schedules contained in this database include agriculture, industry and manufacturers, social statistics, and supplemental schedules. Now, for mortality schedules, you need to look to the U.S. Federal Census Mortality Schedules 1850 to 1880. Those are a separate collection there at Ancestry.com. In general, data recorded on the non-population schedules covered 1 year exactly. So it began and ended on June 1st, preceding the year of the enumeration. The information requested on each schedule changed throughout the year, so you may not necessarily find the same information on the same schedule type for different years. Well, thanks so much, Will. That is terrific information. And again, I'll have that link taking you directly into those enumerations in the show notes. Our next email is from Lucy Christensen, who writes, I listen to your podcast every morning on the way to work, hoping that by the time I get home, I can remember one tidbit that I can use. I am needing some help. I need to find a good scanner. I have lots of family pictures that I need to scan. Some of them are of my family and were done in the last 20 years. Many belong to my parents and my husband's parents, and we need to scan them. So I want to locate a good quality scanner that I can scan both color and black and white. Can you help me or point me in the right direction to research them? I know that at one time Family Tree Magazine did an article on them, and I have been unable to find that article, even though I have 7 or 8 years worth of magazines. I love doing genealogy, but I don't have enough time to do it as often as I would like. Oh, that's the case for all of us, isn't it, Lucy? She says, I have many photos that I need to scan to preserve before we lose them. Well, Lucy, the article that you're probably thinking about was written by Rhonda McClure. It's in the January 2005 issue of the magazine. The article was called The Skinny on Scanners. It's also available in their 2005 compilation CD and as a plus article on the website. So I'll have links to those in the show notes. Now, currently, I'm using an Epson Perfection 4180 photo scanner. I bought it a couple of years ago, and it was specifically because it came with these plastic inserts that allowed you to scan slides, and that was really what I was trying to accomplish. But like I said, I bought it a couple of years ago, so I'm sure there's new technology and I don't even know if this model is still being made or is available. So I want to put the word out to all of you listening. If you've purchased a scanner recently that you think is really good for color and black and white photos that can help Lucy out, drop me a line at genealogygemspodcast@gmail.com, or you can leave the information in a voicemail on the voicemail line at 925-272-4021. And I will be sure and share that on the next episode, and we'll see if we can't help Lucy out. Lucy also sent me a message from her iPhone saying that she's working her way backwards through the past Genealogy Gems episodes. And she says, I was listening to the episode where you announced the iPad. I've been listening to your podcast on my iPod and then on my iPhone. And you mentioned the Genealogy Gems iPhone app. How is this different from the podcast that I'm already subscribed to? Thanks again for your podcast. Well, Lucy, the iPhone app is available through the iTunes store. You just go to itunes.com/downloads and do a search for Genealogy Gems. The advantage to having the Genealogy Gems podcast app is that you can stream and listen to the show without having to download it to your iPhone, to your iPod, and take up, precious storage space. It also includes that bonus content, like in the situation where I'm going to put together that video showing how to move people within the online family trees at Ancestry that we just talked about. That video will be bonus content on this episode number 95. So app users can select bonus content, and in there you'll find maybe a video or some extra audio. I think last episode we had a little extra audio tidbit and some gems. And oftentimes I'll have images and wallpaper and things that you can download to your app. So there's usually some bonus content in there that you would probably really enjoy. Also through the app, there's some really quick and easy buttons that you can visit the website. You can email me. You can call the show and leave a voicemail, that type of thing. All of that right there from the app. And one of the newest features that people really like about it is that you can listen to the show in the background and still be able to continue to do all the other functions that you do on your iPhone. So I know a lot of people really like that feature. And now that it's been upgraded, it's even faster to download the shows. So lots of kind of advantages there. I think that you'll really enjoy it. And again, you can find it at the iTunes store. I'll have a link taking you directly to the page for the Genealogy Gems app in the show notes in case you need it. And Jerry Pearsall from Colorado messaged me about downloading the app. He says, it's great, except it isn't clear to me from the app how I know that I've got the latest episode. Currently, it shows episode number 94. Will episode 95 magically appear at the top of the list when it's released? So I replied back to him and let him know that as long as your app has access to internet Wi-Fi, then yeah, each new episode's going to magically appear at the top when it's released. It's pretty cool. You don't even have to think about it. It's just there. Or when you plug it into iTunes, iTunes will go out and grab new episodes and update the app and all that kind of stuff. It's amazing. It just shows up. So, and I love his answer when I told him this. He says, just plain awesome. Love it. Multitudinous thanks. Well, you are very welcome, Jerry. Oh, and be sure, like I said, check out the app bonus content too, because that is a real extra feature. There's bonus content at the main level of the podcast app itself, and then within each show, you look for bonus content, the videos, images, and audio, and so on. Whew. Well, that is it for the mailbox for now. Coming up next, I've got a gem for you. Roots Magic 4 has been completely rewritten and is now even more powerful and makes building your family tree easier than ever. I love it. With Roots Magic, you can add unlimited facts, find anyone in your database with lightning speed with Roots Magic Explorer, quickly and easily create perfectly formatted sources with the Roots Magic Source Wizard, create customized reports, and best of all, you can now take Roots Magic wherever your research takes you with the Roots Magic to Go, which lets you run Roots Magic directly off your flash drive. And Roots Magic makes it a snap to share your family history, publish a book, create stunning wall charts, shareable CDs, even generate websites automatically from your data. To download your risk-free trial of Roots Magic 4, head to rootsmagic.com. See why professionals and beginners alike choose Roots Magic at rootsmagic.com. You know, there's one common challenge that every single genealogist must contend with, and that's how to deal with all the paper. And more specifically, how to care for the most precious papers amongst our collection. The old, perhaps damaged, one-of-a-kind documents that we can't afford to lose. Well, in this gem, I have an expert preservationist with over 35 years of experience who can help. Scott M. Haskins is the author of the book, How to Save Your Stuff from a Disaster. He has worked in the U.S. and Europe as a professional art conservator since 1975. And in addition, Scott, for many years, was an adult education teacher on how to preserve your treasured family history items. He works with the general public, historical societies, museums, corporations, private collectors, art galleries, city, state, and federal governments, and most important, he has helped tens of thousands of people just like you to save their stuff. So in this gem, he shares his expertise on how to protect and preserve paper items. Now, of course, each of us has to deal with unique situations. So before launching into any of these techniques, you're going to need to assess for yourself if you think the item should be evaluated in person by a preservationist. But no matter how you decide to proceed, you're going to be equipped with a little more information and know the questions to ask. Here's my conversation with Scott Haskins. I'm here at the Family History Expo with Scott M. Haskins. And Scott, we've been neighbors throughout the entire expo, and I know that you're here with your book, How to Save Your Stuff from a Disaster. Tell us, I know your background's in preservation. You've been doing this for quite some time, right?
I've been a preservation expert for, I can't believe I'm saying this, 35 years. And, of course, that was before you were born. But my actual professional background is in art conservation of paintings. But the information in my book, How to Save Your Stuff from a Disaster, is the professional information from our industry or our profession. And it's all basic, of course. I'm not trying to teach you how to restore a rip in your painting.
Right.
I'm trying to help you understand how to protect and preserve all the things that make up your family history, the original items. For instance, like your grandmother's wedding certificate, your family Bible, the collectibles and the porcelains, that you inherited from your grandmother, all the things that make up the family history. I'm hoping to give people important information on how to preserve and protect it.
That was one of the things that stood out to me about the book, was that oftentimes we see photographs, we see paper, but I could tell from your art and your preservation background that you were dealing with china and other types of materials. And of course, all of those in some fashion are heirlooms. May not be priceless, but they're priceless to us, of course.
Well, there's 3 different kinds of value. One, of course, is a financial value, but one is also of a historical value.
Yes.
And then there's one, of course, of personal emotional value. Now, an emotional value, it may not have to be by your great-grandmother. They could be the drawings your kids brought home from school. And you could be totally...
The heirlooms of the future.
Exactly.
Right?
You
Yes.
could be wrapped up in that. So there's lots of reasons why you just really wouldn't want to lose something. And there's several reasons why it might be important to you.
And I wanted to talk about paper items today, because that's one area where just about all of us have something. And I noticed in your chapter 4 in your book, here I was expecting to see how to fix a paper or something that's wet. And the first thing you said was the first part of preservation is before a disaster occurs. Tell us about that. What are we supposed to be thinking about in terms of the letters, the baptismal certificates, all this paper we're getting?
As you know, there are lots of reasons why things fall apart. If you're sitting around with your baptismal certificate on the kitchen table and you spill your cup of hot chocolate, duh.
Right.
There are some things that you can't control, like an earthquake, but you can control to a certain extent whether your grandmother's wedding certificate is in a hot wooden trunk up in the attic. You can control whether it is sitting in a cardboard box in the basement next to the water heater. So there's kind of some, if you think about it, kind of, logical ways of thinking, kind of looking ahead. Now, I understand that common sense is not very common, and the tips on my website at saveyourstuff.com and in my book kind of help to jog people's memory. People hear a tip or a suggestion that I make and they go, oh, yeah, it's kind of like, oh, I could have had a V8. Well, they go, oh, I knew that. Why didn't I do that? Nothing sadder than hearing stories from people. It could have been avoided.
And I was thinking about, there's so many steps that you take in that process, but if the minimum that you do is just to move that box, even if it's still in cardboard, but move it away from the water heater, and just take as many steps as you can now to eliminate or to reduce the number of possible disasters that could happen until you get to that point where you're really...
That is so true.
Yeah.
That is so true. And it doesn't take a moving company to move a cardboard box away from the, to be doing it. Yeah. Also, another thing is we all have piles of stuff. We've probably got storage units pile of stuff.
Yes.
And the question is, of course, not are you going to archive and organize and collate and correlate and organize everything. That's not what the book's about. The book is not how to deal with that. The deal here is pick some priorities. Pick 5 items that you think are important and do something with them. And then 5 more or 10. But just start out with a few items. Get the box of photos away from the water heater. Take the heirloom watercolor off the wall away from the open window where it's getting blasted by light.
Right. Well, let's give an example of that. We're talking about original papers, right? And you have some basic steps that you should take in order to protect those original papers. What would be examples of those steps?
One of the easiest things is to get page protectors. Page protectors are all made out of the right plastic, the right kind of archival plastic.
We don't have to worry about reading the fine print on the label. We know if it's a sheet protector, it's in good shape these days.
That's true.
Okay.
And if one of the package of sheet protectors is double the price because it's archival, and the other one is generic and half the price, the generic half the price page protector is probably still made out of archival material and will do the exact same job as the one that's twice the price.
Okay.
Even a $10 photo album at Costco or Walmart is made out of all acid-free materials and has the correct kind of plastic.
That's becoming more of a standard now.
Exactly.
Okay.
You can go to Office Max or Office Supply Store and buy a package of page protectors. Take your certificate or your paper item, slide it in there, and you have just protected your item against water damage, spilling stuff on it, kinking it when you're handling it, and you have isolated it away from other items that are acidic. And so the contact between the two acidic items will not cause them to age faster. So you've done a lot just by taking it and putting it into a page protector.
Is there any benefit in putting a buffered paper in there with it? Or is that important? Or can we just have it, just the item itself inside that protector?
You can have just the item itself inside of the protector. Now, if you're going to be a cheapskate and use one page protector for two items back to back, right? Then you'll want a sheet of buffered, acid-free paper between the two items.
So we don't want them touching each other.
Right. Now, let me make a distinction, because acid-free means that when the paper was created, it was acid-free. But it can be contaminated, and in fact, the acid-free nature of it can change. I have taken many out-of-the-box acid-free papers, tested them, and they were not acid-free anymore.
Really? Okay.
So the other word that you need to remember with acid-free is acid-free buffered. A buffer is a residual acid-free thing. I'm trying to keep this basic for everybody, but it's kind of like a cold capsule. There's a residual in the paper that kind of lets go and combats the acids in the future as acids might want to be generated.
Is that an additive that they're adding?
Well, when you deacidify paper, or when you make acid-free paper, you put an alkaline or a combatant against the acid in the paper. So what they do is they leave a reserve of it in the paper so that in the future it will stay acid-free.
Right. Great. Now, you talk in here also about odd-sized papers sometimes, and I've come across this myself, where by the time I got it all unfolded, that my grandmother had it all folded for so long, I realized it was bigger than the sheet protector. What can I do?
There are special page protectors or special holders that you can buy from preservation material suppliers. In my book, at the end of each chapter, there's a whole list of suppliers, but for your listeners, University Products is one. Light Impressions is another company.
I've used them, yeah.
You can Google them, get to the website, and they will give you a wide range of choices of containers and page protectors for taking care of these odd-sized items.
And one thing, I know I personally had a question, and it's going off the track of paper a bit, but when you have old photographs, you could put them in a sheet protector, but then I do hear a lot about the envelopes that are supposed to be archival safe. What do you recommend?
Envelopes? Well, if they're acid-free, then yes, they can help. Yeah, those would work fine. Now, what gets kind of tricky is when you get like the odd-sized ones. And some people are, especially if they're really odd-sized, for instance, talking about photographs, they made those panoramic photographs that are 6 inches tall and 6 feet wide, and you're tempted to wrap those around a cardboard tube. It's the same as with, let's say, architectural drawings. You might want to roll them up and put them in a cardboard tube. Well, cardboard is on my top 10 list of things to avoid. It's a hit list. Every piece of cardboard tubing should be thrown out of the archival office.
Okay, great. Because that, I'm assuming, is anytime it touches something else, it just adds acid to it, correct?
It is, correct. And if you have an acid-free paper touching cardboard, the acid-free paper will contaminate, the cardboard will contaminate the acid-free paper, so the acid-free paper will become acidic unless you buy what kind of acid-free paper?
Buffered.
Buffered, that's right.
I just think of buffering.
She's a quick study.
Okay, so now let's say by chance somebody made a mistake. They didn't hear your interview soon enough and something got wet. What do we do with wet paper? Can we salvage it?
First of all, we dry it out. That's the very number one biggest thing you do. You get the air moving. You do not get a heater on it.
Okay.
You just get the air moving.
Just air.
Just there. Because especially, let's say you've got a book and your book is wet and you want to dry it out and you put heat on it. Heat will accelerate the dissolving of the adhesives in the bindings. And that can work in many other items also. So it will warp, it will ripple, but that doesn't matter right now. Just get it dry so it doesn't grow mold.
Right.
Okay? Then I would say once you've got it dry, put it into a page protector. And it's not going to get worse. It's not going to grow mold, because now you've got it dry. And you can photocopy it if you need a good solid copy, and you can worry about somewhere down the line. You can email me and talk to me later about how to get the waviness out of the paper.
Okay.
But as far as an emergency response goes, get the paper dry, get the air moving as fast as you can so you don't have mold growth, and then get it protected and put in a page protector. Now, one of the things that may cause you distress, especially if it's a handwritten document, is you may have inks that will run.
Yes.
There's nothing you can do about that.
Oh, okay.
So let them run, get it dried out, don't let it grow mold, and then we'll deal with the rest of that later.
If you inherit something that did get wet, was dried, but you can see that little dark moldy thing on the edge, should you leave it there or cut it off? I mean, what do you recommend?
Well, I recommend not cutting anything off of anything, especially because my main focus is you got a pile of stuff. You've got boxes of things. Don't lose yourself in the little teeny tiny details of every little spot and stain on the things that you have. The stains aren't going to get worse.
It's not going to spread, and if we have it in a protector, then it's not going to touch anything else. So is that a good way to go?
Unless it's mold, it's not going to grow and get on anything else.
Okay.
Now, there are stains that will get worse just because paper yellows and acids continue to eat at things.
Right.
So unless you've neutralized those acids or deacidified them with a spray, then they could get worse. But right now, as you're trying to get into making a dent in your pile of stuff, I would say just get things into page protectors. Don't worry about stains. Don't even worry about a rip. Let's say you've got an important certificate, let's say a wedding certificate from your grandmother, and it's partially ripped.
Exactly.
Yeah, just put it in a page protector. The rip won't get worse. It won't grow. It won't do anything. You'll put it in the page protector, and you can even handle it without making it get worse, and you've protected it. And that's the number one thing you want to do. Get to the rip later.
Okay.
That's my coaching.
If there is mold on it, then finally, what do we do with that?
There is from these suppliers, these preservation material suppliers, there is a crumbled up eraser that you can buy.
Oh.
This crumbled up eraser is kind of a dust, kind of granular dust, that you can pour out of a little canister, and then you can rub it gently on the surface of the item, of the document, for instance. And you got to be careful that your document doesn't have pencil on it, because the eraser, of course, if you're rubbing hard enough, is going to take the pencil writing off.
Right.
But that will pick up the mold, and then you can dust it off, and then you can vacuum up all the eraser with the mold in it.
I think I saw that in here too, didn't I? You've got all of these tips and more. You've got the resources for who to get in touch with to get some of these materials, and in here, page 60, the crumbled eraser pads for cleaning dust. This is really a great resource because it does cover the wide range of the different types of heirlooms that we're talking about, and I really appreciate you sharing some real how-to tips that we can start using right now, because everybody's got paper, right?
That's right. Everybody has paper. Most people have photographs. I've tried to talk about all the common things that we have. Everybody will find the book very applicable. You can't think of it in terms of just a paper item. You're dealing with a family's identity.
Yeah.
You're dealing with memories. You're dealing with documentation that people connect with. And as each generation passes, it becomes more and more important. So it's a real pleasure to have these things and see them. My children will think more of them than I did, and I hope to pass them along in decent condition and in better condition than I got them.
Well, Scott Haskins, thank you very much for helping us do the same. Appreciate it.
I was very pleased to talk with you about this, and good luck to you and all your listeners.
Well, there's a lot to consider when it comes to paper items, isn't there? If you'd like to have all of Scott's expertise right at your fingertips, then I really do recommend his book. It's terrific. Again, it's called How to Save Your Stuff from a Disaster. Very easy to use, easy to read, and a great desktop resource. I will have a link to the book in Amazon and in the show notes for this episode, which is number 95. And of course, if you decide to pick up a copy and you do so through that link on our site, then you'll also be helping to support this free podcast. And also in the show notes, I'm going to have links to the 2 suppliers that Scott mentioned. And I believe they also carry the crumbled up eraser that he mentioned for dealing with mold problems. So lots of resources there. Check them out at the show notes. Just go to genealogygems.com, click podcast, and navigate your way to episode number 95.
Profile America, Thursday, August 26th. An emotional and legal battle that lasted many decades ended 90 years ago today as the 19th Amendment to the Constitution was certified. The amendment prohibits discrimination on the basis of sex with regard to voting, in effect allowing women to vote. Tennessee had become the 36th state to ratify the amendment the week before by a single vote, touching off a potentially violent confrontation among those for and against. The governor signed the bill into law a few days later. American women exercised their new right for the first time in the 1920 presidential election. In recent national elections, 3 to 5% more women have cast their votes than men. You can find these and more facts about America from the U.S. Census Bureau online at census.gov.
Thanks so much for joining me for Genealogy Gems Podcast episode number 95. If you would like to drop me an email, would love to hear from you. Just send it to genealogygemspodcast@gmail.com. And of course, we always have our voicemail line. Would love to put you on the show. It's at 925-272-4021. Thanks so much for listening, friend. I'll talk to you soon.